Okay, so before we start, though, I'd like us to do motivation, and often, of course, we start off with an emotional one. Where I work for the benefit of all my mother sentient beings. Of course, which then does require a prerequisite to say that. I mean, there's lots of instructions on it, mind training, but there's also a tradition of developing a motivation from wisdom, which does then arrive at bodhicitta. And so I'd like to start with that. We're just starting on motivation. And is that, for example, I've in the previous classes I've introduced the idea that, for example, right now, you're sitting in a room that's full of atmosphere, because if there was no atmosphere in that room, you wouldn't be able to be alive. You'd be dead. So just sort of in your mind, sort of think of like you're sitting at the bottom of a swimming pool. In this case, the swimming pool is a swimming pool full of atmosphere, oxygen and nitrogen and such like that. So that's the first thought, is just bring that, okay, well, I am, move your hands and you can feel the air move around them. I mean, we're in a very thin medium, which is the air. Okay, and then the second thing is, if you get that consciousness, then take a breath, and as you inhale and exhale, I mean, we all know, we're well educated that means is that the oxygen is transferred over to the tissue of your lungs. It then transfers through to the blood, and then that to the heart muscle, and down through your organs. I mean, literally every cell in your body needs that oxygen. If it doesn't get it, that cell dies. So, I mean, we are we're an organic, totally organic thing, or organs, organic. Anyway, so we're immersed in the atmosphere. It's between our toes, it's coming up our legs, it's in our back, it's in our face. So we're like immersed in a swimming pool. And then secondly, with each breath we take, we literally feed our body. So we are immersed and penetrated. Okay. And what that means is that we are interdependent. We are not self-existent. And so on the basis of that, then, you should expand your understanding. So physically, 100%, we are interdependent, not self-existent. If we're not involved in that environment, we would cease to exist. Okay, so we are interdependent, not self-existent. But then if you move, for example, your ability to listen to my English, well, you just didn't pop out of the womb speaking English. You had to be talked to by your mother and father for months on end till finally you said mama or papa, and such. And then you did learn language. And then you went to school and you got educated. So you got better use of the language and such. So again, you were interdependent. You had to be interdependent to be able to understand my English right now. It wasn't something that was sort of innate to you. Or en otra manera, hablo, si tú entiendes español, sí, es porque tú tienes una interdependencia con esto. But we'll stick to English, so just that. So then, if you look at, for example, your emotional life, all the feelings you have, they need interdependence. If you focus on just the really positive ones, for example, to fall in love, you need somebody in your life. You don't fall in love with nothing. You don't walk down the sidewalk and suddenly you're full of love. You need someone to meet, you then sort of get attracted to them for whatever reason, and then you fall in love and you have feelings of love. Or even the better one is joy. And I like to think of, for example, if you have children or grandchildren or just other people's children, and you give them a present and they look at you and they smile and they say, thank you so much. And you feel this incredible joy in your heart, and that, again, that you need interdependence. You don't have that for nothing. Or even if you look at your job, if your job didn't have interdependence, you wouldn't have money. You need clients. Whatever way your job is, you need to have people in your life. So you are 100% interdependent in all facets of your existence. So, and this actually comes from a Sangha, there's this idea. So with that, just off your body and your breathing, expanding it to your intelligence, to your emotional life, to your financial life, you totally need interdependence. And so when you appreciate that, then it's just sort of fairly easy to say, well, may I repay that interdependence? May I offer something good for the benefit of others? because I'm so supported. I am totally supported. It's not like I'm maybe supported. I am totally supported by others and by other things. I mean, my mother and father gave me my body. Thank you. So with that thought and that clarity, and that's a wisdom. That's like, that's like, we've been breathing the air for 30, 40, 50 years, but we never looked at the implication, So anyway, with that then say, well, may I repay that kindness? May I become more enlightened? May I help others to become more enlightened? May I help them find the causes of true happiness? And that's why I'm attending the class today. So with that thought, then, of course, we're also interdependent with Buddha Shakyamuni and his teaching. So if we bring up the screen, share the screen, please, for taking refuge. Okay, and I'm not, so with that idea of interdependence, of course, we have all universal sentient beings because we are interdependent. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, by the merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transitory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, by the methods of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transitory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, by the merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all transitory beings. I prostrate reverently with body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, both actually arranged and those mentally emanated. I confess all my negative actions and downfalls collected from beginningless time. I rejoice in the virtues of ordinary beings and areas. Please remain to the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for transitory beings. I dedicate my own and others' virtues to great enlightenment. Okay, that's good. Okay, so welcome to the class on meditation. Now, you might think that sort of, gee, Jhampa, there's these, the 9 steps of Shine, and then there's the, the 5 opponents and the five remedies and stuff. And Jhampa, you haven't talked about that. Well, I think if you're a very professional meditator in a retreat, okay, those things are good. But we're lay people. We have most of us have work to do and go to jobs and things like that. So, that we even meditate for 15 minutes a day, just shamatha, is phenomenal. And I'm not criticizing us. I mean, all of us. I mean, myself included. We have lives, we have things we have to do, go to work, and this and that. And so, I think it's very important to have a very practical point of view. Now, if one of you or two of you are monks or nuns and you're going to go into a long retreat, go for it, yes. And then get all of the 9 stages and such like that. I would actually recommend Alan Wallace. He has an incredible program. They have a hotel in Thailand. I don't know if they're still doing it, but it was some time ago, where you go for 3 months and you have a hotel, you have all meals provided. You have a psychologist to talk to you if you're having some trouble. You have a physiotherapist to give you a massage. I mean, he's produced an incredible program for you to try to have Shine, calm abiding, or shamatha. So if you really are super serious, well, that would be a good thing to do. You get lots of good technique and things that way. And that's if you're at that level. But if you're sort of, we've got a job and we're not planning to go to Thailand soon and things like that, or I don't have that money because I think it's quite expensive, then okay, well, let's talk about it in realistic terms. And that was my goal when I was asked to do this. I wasn't going to, I could do the scholastic presentation. I've fully received it numerous times from various geshis and such. It's good. But let's be realistic. We have jobs, we have things to do. So what we want is basic mindfulness, that we can improve who we are in the daily activities we do. Now, and again, I'm just reviewing previous class to sort of bring us up to speed on the same page. Okay, breathing exercise, incredibly good. 1, I mean, you position your body comfortably. Okay, that's the first thing for good meditation. Natural breathing just means that your body and your mind will become calmer because your breathing is natural. It's not in some way controlled. You're not holding or retaining your breath or doing some exercise. So that will make you automatically get some relaxation in the body. Then if you move your attention to that, even more so. And then on top of it, it's such a good object. And we're talking about movement in your chest, not up at the nose or something like that, because that's too distant. You want to be in your body. So the movement of your chest rising and falling keeps you in your body. And you can certainly experience very quickly whether you've got some tension or something like that, whether you are out of touch with your body. And again, our culture is so wired that we're very much out of touch with our bodies. I mean, it's sort of, our body has to hit us with a hammer to make us say, hey, you're sick, or you're getting an ulcer, or gee, you have a lot of stress in your back and shoulders and you're not noticing it because you've got all these demands on you. Okay, so breathing with the chest has many benefits because it gets you into your body. Natural breathing calms your body and your mind down, being attentive to it. And then, of course, the statistics, again, there's various people that you can quote from, but if you can do 15 minutes a day of just breathing meditation, you'll get all sorts of benefits, over about 4 to 5 months. So it's not going to be tomorrow morning, but, better focus, better memory, clarity and things. I mean, I won't go through all the details. I've done them before. So this is practical. This is really good. Now, so in regards to the technique that we're doing breathing meditation. Now, I've given you 2 things to use for when you get distracted, which is one of the problems with meditation. One is, this is my time for meditation. Such a simple thing to say. It guarantees, though, that you sort of let go of that object. And the really important thing is, don't criticize yourself. I mean, we're all lousy meditators, okay? I mean, I'm in my 70s now. I don't meditate like I used to, okay? But that's okay. At least I'm meditating. I'm trying. So just taking a comfortable posture and then following the breath, getting in touch with yourself. Very good. And if I have distracting thoughts, which I do, and just say, this is my time for meditation. Now, if you can, you try to develop a sort of what's called, well, in Tantra, it would be called your Dharmakaya mind. But if we just refer to it as your mind open like the space of the sky. Okay. And the thing is, this works if you start to work at that. And it's not much different than this saying, this is my time for meditation. But what you say is, okay, my consciousness is open like the space of the sky. Okay. So now then you have to do a little bit of analysis. Okay. For example, space is not a something. If you took planet Earth is not moving and space goes around it, to get out of the way. Space is not a something. It's merely a mental designation for non-obstruction. Okay. So if you can have some clarity that, okay, I am open like the space of the sky, that is, I am non-obstructive. Okay. And then that sort of gives you this deeper place to settle into. And it's not contradictory to the breathing in your chest, okay, because you're in your body, okay? You're all your body and this atmosphere and the planet Earth and everything. It's all a vast ocean of interdependence. There's your open like the space of the sky, that sort of cognition. And so you do that. And then when thoughts and feelings come, you try to look at them from a bigger perspective to say, okay, that's just, some karma, something came up for this or that reason. Maybe it was a thought, maybe it was a sensation, maybe it was a sound. Okay. But it's like a cloud going through that sky, or it's like a bird flying through that sky, or it's like a piece of contamination, some burnt something or other, which is contamination. That's like an angry thought, a delusion. So you get perspective that way. That you try to identify more with being open, spacious, and peaceful. And then the thoughts and feelings as they come will not be as demanding on you. Now, again, in the research that I reviewed, and again, there's all sorts of, YouTube videos and Google, Lama Google out there that can give lots of commentaries. And so you might have a different one than the one I'm going to quote. But they did say that if you do mindfulness meditation, you get detached from your thoughts. You start realizing that the thought you might be having right now isn't ultimate reality. It could be just a false idea about something. And so you get detached about even the thoughts you're having, or it gives you a little bit of space. So again, that's a big benefit, to sometimes realize that the thoughts we're having aren't reality. They're just sort of my expectation or my fear or my desire. Okay, so, okay, it's just a cloud. And maybe it was a quite attractive cloud, but no, I'm not going to buy into it. I'm going to be detached. I'm the open space of the sky. Okay, so that is a very, very good technique. It's one of the very first ones I was taught by Geshe Rapton and such. So trying to sort of establish that. But the point to get, like, how do you do that? Is that you try to say, okay, open like space of the sky, like huge open space sky, you know. And then when I'm sitting there and, okay, there's a little voice and a little thought coming up. Okay, that's like it's a butterfly, you know. But then, okay, I sort of try to stay in that open peacefulness. Okay, so I stay there. And then again, maybe a stronger thought comes. And of course, when we're meditating, then suddenly like a thought comes and you're completely hooked by it. And you're totally taken with that thought. Okay, well, all right, then you know, sort of, okay, it was like a big storm cloud came in for a second. Okay, or a very dense white cloud, puffy white cloud came in for a second. Okay, but then I go, okay, and then I open space to the sky. So that is a second technique for dealing with distraction. As for, you know, sleepiness, which is another one of the opponents for good meditation, well, pick the time you're going to meditate. That'd be good. And secondly, I mean, maybe drink a cup of coffee. You know, why not? You know, if you want to get yourself, if you're sort of a bit sleepy or something, or just make sure that there's fresh air coming in. Like, you don't want to, you know, people sometimes say, oh, let's meditate outside. No, way too much distraction. No, meditate inside your house. Okay, so you have some control of the environment to an extent. And if you live with family, you know, then meditate early in the morning when nobody's up out of bed yet. You know, okay, it's a little bit of discipline, but it's not bad. You know, if you live by yourself, you don't need to do that. But if you live with others, then try to pick a time when you could meditate without, you know, being bothered by somebody flushing the toilet or rattling around in the kitchen or something like that. Okay, so that's again, so for being sleepy, pick a time when you know you're going to do a fairly good job. Pick a location that's good for you, that's not like too distracted and such like that. So then you'll avoid being sleepy, because if you develop mindfulness in a good time, in a good moment, you got it. You collected the karma. You don't need to worry about it. I mean, so other times maybe you're distracted and you try to meditate and it's really hard. But then it's a question of familiarity. If you can put down like 6 months of maybe a couple sessions a day of 15 minutes of good meditation, when you have the clarity, then at the end of 6 months, you're going to have a good familiarity with that experience, that sensation of your meditation. And it's not going to, then you're going to invoke it when you need it. Okay, so it's not a question of that, gee, you know, I've got this and that, or no, just build up your familiarity with the experience of being of a meditator. And it is a sense of relaxation, being at peace with yourself, having personal space so you're not so reactive, and then all the benefits that come out of mindfulness as described earlier. So we have two techniques for being scattered. The best one really is just, it's my time for meditation. As you gain some capacity, then you could possibly do open like the space of the sky. And remember that I described it in previous classes that when you meditate, it's like, you know, we have a river, and if it gets really cold, the top part of the river freezes. Well, that's your stability. But underneath that ice coating, there's a water flowing, and that's sort of the little thoughts and feelings that sort of go along in the back of our mind as we're trying to meditate. Okay, so that's an example to say, okay, I've got a little bit of stability. Okay, I will slowly get the ice thicker, the sensation of stability better. But for now, okay, at least I understand what's going on. That there, you know, with my lack of attention being strong, I will have some problem. I will have a little bit of, you know, undercurrent of thoughts and things, but it's okay. You know, we're developing ourselves. So we have two things. We have then scattering. Okay, it's my time for meditation, or as you gain stability, do the open like the space of the sky. My consciousness is open, and the basis for that could be your universal interdependence. You know, that, I mean, whether you're here or you're on the other side of the sun, or if you're in another solar system, it's all a vast ocean of interdependence, no independent self-existence. That can give you some sort of a sense, okay. And then it is space, which is non-obstructive. So my consciousness thing. So a little bit more profound, takes a little bit more conscious cognition to be able to do it. Okay, so that's your scattering. And then for syncing, as I said, pick a good time to meditate that's going to work for you, whether you're a morning or a night person, pick a location. Now, one thing that's also good to do with location is actually, whether you have an altar or at least like maybe a shelf in your house that's got some Buddha imagery on it, and you can sit in front of that. The reason for that, because that invokes the feelings you have for your meditation. And you do that. I mean, for example, if you see somebody setting the table and you can smell something nice, you go, oh, I'm going to eat. So your mouth starts salivating. You haven't even got the food yet. But the idea, you've invoked hunger and you've invoked a sensation of, I want to eat some food. Okay. Well, the same thing. Okay. Have a place, if you can, that's sort of your meditative corner, or whether it's in the corner of your bedroom or whatever it may be, like that. Have some pictures on the wall, like of the lamas, Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, or whoever you care about, or even, Buddha Shakyamuni. That's very good. Then on top of it, smell incense. Now try to have natural incenses, not the chemical ones. India is famous for producing wonderful incenses, but they're chemical and they actually are damaging to you. So try to be careful about the incense you pick. But again, that smell is no different than smelling a nice meal and suddenly your mouth is salivating, because you're going to eat some food. Well, in this case, the smell of the incense reminds you of your meditative moments. Okay. So, and try to maybe have the same one, or now we have these wonderful vapor things, you can buy a little machine and it bubbles the water and you put oil in it and things. Those are really great because you don't have to worry about fire. Okay, so that'd be a good option for that. And then you get things like orange or anyway, there's all sorts of oils that you can use. Really great stuff. Okay, so again, there's location, something you can look at that's going to help invoke a meditative consciousness, and then on top of that, the smell, comfortable seat. Again, I can't sit cross-legged anymore, hardly at all. So if I sit down, I sit with my legs stretched out, or I sit in a chair. And that's how I'm going to meditate, because I'm in my 70s. Okay, so that's what it is. Trijang Rinpoche sat that way too. So I think, Trijang Rinpoche did it, so I can too. Okay. Anyway, so that's something to take in consideration. Now, because this is the last class, I want us to meditate. So please take a comfortable posture. We'll only meditate for like 10 minutes, so it's nothing too excruciating, please. And also, it's nighttime. For me, it's 8 o'clock. For you guys, it's only 7 o'clock or 7:30 now. So you shouldn't be too tired, unless you're on the East Coast. And of course, it's 9:30. But anyway, take a comfortable posture and check up your body. Is my body comfortable? Can I leave it in this posture for 10 minutes without moving? That's reasonably important. Okay. Take one good breath, because you can drop some emotions you might have carried to that moment, maybe a little bit of stress in your body. One good breath, then return to natural breathing. And what you want to focus on is actually the movement of your chest, which would include your diaphragm. That plate of muscles is the bottom of your lungs. But the point is that just all of that movement is where you put your attention. So your attention is checked up your body. It's reasonably comfortable. You took one big breath. Of course, it's good to check up motivation, because that's, if you throw in a good motivation right now, you're collecting that karma whilst you meditate. So, I'd love to be more enlightened and to offer a more enlightened relationship to the people in my life. It's a nice feeling. And then shift your attention to your breathing, the movement of your chest. Now, as you continue to breathe and meditate, the first step is just labeling, I'm inhaling, I'm exhaling. But you've all been meditating enough, so you can move to the second step, which is try to have attention on the full experience of an inhalation, the full experience of an exhalation. First moment, the middle moment, the last moment, and such. That's a more full conscious experience of your breathing. And then the last step that you can add is just that you inhale peace, you exhale peace. You don't do a lot of intellectual thought about it. Just, I inhale peacefulness, I exhale peacefulness. It's not an intellectual thing, it's a sensation. And bringing your awareness back to your breathing. Close your meditation with a happy thought. That having done my, just in this case, 8 minutes of meditation, I dedicate it for a more enlightened life. And I offer that for the benefit of all. We always say, dedication makes karma more powerful. Well, happy dedication makes it even more powerful. Okay. So, okay. One thing I want to bring up just with the making the mind open like the space in the sky is that it does help you get perspective. And what I mean is that often, for example, you have a certain thought and it's sort of like, you shake or you go, I wish I hadn't had that thought or whatever, you have some reaction to it. And that means that you're sort of living the thought. Obviously that, most of our thoughts are in that category. But when you're meditation, you actually have perspective. You can sort of say, I'm observing that thought. And that gives you the opportunity to respond differently. And that's my point is that the open space of the sky is a little bit more profound in that you can actually observe thoughts, don't live them. And then you basically have perspective. And from that, then you can label it appropriately or whatever, or just recognize it's not beneficial, or just say, okay, maybe I have to think about that later. Remember, this is my time for meditation. Okay, so it's just another little added point for your knowledge base for being a good meditator. Okay. Now, having said that, I'd like to open it to questions, please, because this is our last session. So if there's something you want to bring up, something you read, or something you're experiencing, it's now is the chance to share that, okay? Or ask questions. I can't guarantee I can answer it, but I'll try. So just turn your mic on if that's what you need to do, okay? I'm willing to wait, so don't worry.
Mike, I have a question.
Yep.
Should we understand like other practices to include shamatha meditation?
Well, there's a lot of different techniques. So if you focus in a good mindfulness of the particular technique, whether it's a meditation of Avalokiteshvara or something, or Tara or whatever, that's good. Contemplative meditations, do require a certain amount of focus. You can't just sort of like think about it a little bit and then to start speculating on something else. You need to sort of build up organize your thoughts that you then have an impact on yourself about things. So let's say mindfulness would help all of those. Your shamatha meditation would help all of those. But again, as you develop ability with your shamatha, which is just a nice get in touch with your body, get in touch with your mind sort of foundation, then all your other meditations will be successful. But I leave it up to you. For example, in deity yoga, you should always have a little bit of shamatha. Now, what that normally means is that you generate yourself as the deity, and then you have to rest in sort of say, I am the deity. It's called, they often call it pride, but I think the better word is identification. Like, I identify with being Tara, I identify with being Avalokiteshvara. And that's your shamatha meditation. And at that point, then you could include breathing as Avalokiteshvara, breathing as Tara, but it has, the thing that would be important is all of that, what you understand of that deity, because that's what you're doing to yourself. Like, for example, if you take a high tantra deity like Yamantaka, life is impermanent, and I'm incorporating that. Death is going to happen. Death is going to be scary, when it happens to me. So okay, that's why Yamantaka is so fierce. So you have a context, and certainly Tara, then enlightened activity, Avalokiteshvara, loving compassion. Each deity has a flavor, and that would be your come abiding would be one thing, the aspect of the deity, you being that, identifying. But the second thing would be the connotations, the implications, what you understand of that deity. That's also there. It's not just like an image. It has to have some meat to it, so to speak. Okay. So, but anyway, first main thing is if you do even 10 minutes of shamatha, it just means guarantees you're in touch with yourself, and then obviously every other meditation you do is going to be beneficial. Actually, I'm married. So my wife and I, we often, sometimes we do it, sometimes we get too busy, but we try to sit down every day and just, sit in two chairs in the living room, whether we're facing each other or not, and we just do mindfulness. It's a nice little exercise as a couple. I mean, if you don't have somebody in your life, then do it with your pet dog or cat. It's a sentient being. They want enlightenment. Maybe they don't understand it, but they do. So they do include others sometimes.
Jhampa, Joel, did I pronounce that correctly? Has a
Sure.
question.
Yes.
Yeah. Joel is correct, right? I just have maybe a couple of questions, but the first question is, what would you do to advise someone with who says meditation is boring? I get bored. What would you reply to that person?
I say, you're boring. I'm sorry. No. Well, it depends. Okay, each one of us is different. Some of us are very intellectual, some of us are very emotional based. So it depends on what your sort of nature is. So sort of where your predominant nature is. But so if you maybe are, I'm not saying you, okay, I'm answering generally. But let's say sometimes if someone's very intellectual, they don't feel they're doing anything unless they're thinking about something. And so therefore they would say, oh, this is boring. So I would just say, okay, no, this is an exercise in being present to the moment. And you can say, challenge yourself. Like you say, okay, I've got to do this. I've got to be able to be, how do you put it this way? It's important that I always don't need entertainment, because if you're saying if this is boring, then what's the opposite of that? Well, I'm being entertained. I've got the TV, I've got my cell phone, I've got the radio, whatever. I'm entertained. So you can challenge yourself to say, no, I need to be happy with just sitting here. And so you challenge yourself with that as a thing. Now, it doesn't mean continuously, but periodically, like to sort of say, okay, I got here for 5 minutes. I'm just going to be present to my breathing. So you structure it. You have to structure it properly. I would tend to think that there's the motivation. How you say, if you work off of other people's words on motivation, sometimes it's not that powerful. Whereas if you have something that where like, I'll share it this way. If you can go back to the original reason why you really got interested in Buddhism, or look for answers, even, whether you did it with Christianity and then Buddhism and maybe, Sufism or whatever, or Tai Chi, something bugged you and you wanted an answer for it. That is a very powerful place to come from for motivating yourself. So if you say, maybe you say, I'm always so emotional and I don't like that. So, okay, I have a reason why. I can go back to when, I'm 18, 19 years old. And I didn't have clarity about what it was about. I mean, yeah, I could go off and party with my friends and this and that, but I didn't have context. And that really bugged me so much so that I went to India. When I was in India, by the time I was 20 years old and became a monk, so that, if I remember that, I remember why the heck I want to meditate, because I want that clarity in my life. So I just leave that with you, that you look at yourself and say, well, what's bugging you? And why did you choose Buddhism? Maybe in there you'll find a very good reason why you want to meditate. Okay? Make it more personal. It's not always, we can say it's not dogmatic. Buddhism is not very dogmatic, but don't be dogmatic about your meditation. Make it personal. Okay?
Yeah, I think you answered the second question that I had. And sometimes what people say is that, oh, well, the reason why I don't meditate is because it brings up a lot of uncomfortable feelings, really uncomfortable feelings. So that's why I don't want to meditate, because I don't like those feelings. How would you respond to someone who says that?
Well, then, I don't know. It's like, an example of in Lama Chopa, the Guru Puja prayer, that says that, as I try to cross the ocean of samsara, I'm continually bitten by the monsters, the sharks and the different sea creatures of the ocean, and that's primarily is called the three primarily sufferings: the suffering of change, the suffering of suffering, the suffering of uncertainty, of emptiness. Anyway, so okay, I don't disagree with you that there are some very uncomfortable things, like, especially if we've been traumatized. And sometimes we've been traumatized and we manage to forget it. But when you meditate, it sort of comes to the surface because you're getting more in touch with yourself. So and I might sound strange, but going to a therapist, a psychologist, it's a very good match with Buddhism. It depends on the psychologist, but meditation and psychology work together really, really well, because sometimes psychology is a little bit better in dealing with mundane things. Buddhism gives you this universal, perspective. It's got the nature of consciousness and things like that. Psychology is just sort of looking like, well, you have fear, you have anger, and then they make you go back into your youth and stuff. I'll just share a really simple one with me personally. Is that when my father died when I was 6 years old, and my mother didn't remarry, so she moved us to Vancouver. And then she obviously, her husband's dead. She has 3 boys, of which I'm the youngest. And so we're all put in schools. And as it turned out, I've been educated in a country school that didn't do a very good job, but they put A's and B's on my report card saying I was really smart. So the school in Vancouver said, "Oh, this kid's smart." They put me in a smart class. And then, suddenly they realized I was undereducated. For the fact of being in the other school, it wasn't very good. And so they moved me to a lower class. And I remember it was humiliating for me. And so I always focused on that. And I have a friend of mine who's a psychologist, and we started talking about that. And so she said, "Well, let's go and talk about this." And so she brought up that actually I had been abandoned. Like, my mother was all caught up with the death of my father. She had 2 older boys to deal with. One was 16 and one was 12, and I was only like 8 and stuff. And so I was sort of put to the background. And so I have this sensation of abandonment. I've been challenged. I'm humiliated, and all of that. And that it affects me to now. I mean, to some extent, I may have worked on a lot, but the psychologist helped me. I suddenly go like, wow. I suddenly got this clarity about myself, about why I have certain feelings. Actually, the one I have, you don't notice it because you don't live with me. But if you talk to my wife, for example, I get really angry at ignorance. If somebody's stupid, I have this uncontrollable moment of anger, and I say, "Well, why do I do that?" I get really quite harsh. It's nasty. It's unpleasant. I've got it pretty much under control now, but I understood, because I got humiliated that I wasn't smart. I hate ignorance. Okay, so I'm just sharing with you a bunch of psychology stuff, okay? But the point is that if you've got stuff that's coming up, maybe go and see a psychologist, and maybe there's something there that needs to be worked on a little better than what Buddhism can do for you. But it doesn't mean you exclude Buddhism. It's the fact that you put the two together and you get a very, very good package. And then, of course, meditation, you don't have to pay somebody $125 an hour, so that's pretty good too. Okay. Anyway, so those are just some thoughts I share with you, okay?
Could you mentioned this earlier, and maybe could this be possible reply? Is that you talked about this the open space of the sky, and in that space you talked about perspective, the possibility of perspective and observing. And isn't it possible that when people have uncomfortable thoughts, you can say, "Well, that's not you. You're just observing those thoughts"?
That's correct. Yeah.
Could you say that? Is that?
Yes, you could. Definitely. The thing is, you see, a lot of the thoughts we have are based on 2 things. One, some familiarity we have from whether a good or a bad experience, Or another side is just as it's an illusion, like we have a particularly, we were creating some sort of illusion of something. So in both cases, though, if you can observe it a little bit, you actually you get perspective, is what I said. Then sometimes you can understand it. Like, for example, one of the things you can do in meditation, and I'm not aware of that the Tibetan Lamas talk about this, but let's say, for example, you're sitting there meditating, you've got a pretty good spaciousness, and then comes this feeling, okay, but you've got perspective on it a little bit, you can see it. So then you say, well, what are you trying to tell me, feeling? You talk to the feeling. The Dalai Lama actually does that. I might have mentioned it earlier, but when we were about 24, 25 years old, there's a picture of about 12 of us Western monks and nuns. We were all in our 20s at that particular point. We were the first Western monks and nuns in India, and we were with FPMT. Lama Yeshe, of course, was the big inspiration. So we had a private audience with the Dalai Lama, just us. And so, the Dalai Lama was very pleasant and says, oh, which country are you from and why are you interested in Buddhism and stuff like that? And so we all chitty-chatted away. And then one moment, then he said, now, what do you guys do with your sexual feelings? And here's like the Pope of Buddhism asked you about your sexual feelings. Very embarrassing, Anyway, so we all went, like got shy, because we're all 20 years old, full of hormones and stuff. And then he started laughing and laughing and laughing. And he says, well, I'll tell you what I do. He says, I sit down, or in my meditation, I'm meditating, and I put the me that wants to have a desire, wants to have a relationship or something, I put them in front of me. And I have a debate with them. This is the Dalai Lama says this, okay? I'm not making this up. Okay, so he said, I said, well, I'm a monk. And then I let the other one say, well, I don't care, I want a relationship. And I says, well, no, but I've got other things that I'm doing. And then, he carried on a little bit like that. And then he says, and sometimes I win and sometimes I lose. Okay, so I would share that with you, that if you have, you don't want to get too caught up in it. You need to develop peacefulness. But if one particular feeling comes up quite regularly, then put it in a chair in front of you or put it on a meditation mat in front of you and talk to it, and see what it has to tell you. Be open to what it could possibly say to you. It could be quite interesting. But again, don't just sit there and do that for like an hour, because then you're just playing, loops on yourself. So then say, okay, I asked a question, I got an answer. Okay, I'm going to go back to my peacefulness. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to get better perspective. So in that way, then you actually start to, analyze, have an understanding of what that emotion, what that feeling, what that thought had to do with. Okay. Good. It's one thing that it's important, which sometimes we overlook, is if something's happening in your thoughts and feelings, and then we sort of say, well, why me? I'm innocent. I don't have that problem. Why is that coming up for me? No, okay, then I'm sorry, you completely forgot about karma. If something's happening, it's got a cause and a circumstance. Now, that doesn't mean that we need to exaggerate that into some sort of great burden, but if you have a particular thought, a feeling, or a particular image come to your mind repeatedly, it's not arbitrary. It has some sort of a relationship to you. And so therefore, take ownership of it and say, okay, I don't like this, but I guess it's me. So, okay, what am I going to do about this? So then again, you've got perspective on it. You've put it in a position of you've sort of recognizing it. Okay. So that'll be good. So other questions, commentaries? It's interesting, isn't it? Lama Yeshe always said, when you're a good meditator, you're a good psychologist.
The meditation where you just let your mind go free, are there some, do you know what I'm talking about? I can't remember the name.
Open like the space of the sky?
You just allow everything to happen. You just, whatever enters your mind, is that something that you follow, or do you go down the rabbit hole, or is that just
No, I don't think you're meditating then. I know. Okay, if you say, I'm open like the space of the sky, you've established that. Then whatever comes up, but you didn't just sort of, you're like, you didn't just sort of run with whatever thought is, you observed it. And again, I mean, what you want in good meditation is just to sort of to label it or to observe it and say, but again, to say, this is my time for meditation. That way, then you're always sort of like in control. It's not just, oh, I'm open and everything may happen to me. No, that's not meditation. That's it might be revealing about a few things, but the thing is, you've got to come back to being in control, or at least being peaceful. I mean, let's say control, but let's say having a place of peacefulness where you understand and appreciate what's happening. So it's not a complete letting go. No. For example, I mean, the consciousness of a Buddha or a Bodhisattva, let's make it a Bodhisattva because it's easier to understand, when they feel another sentient being's confusion, their mind automatically sort of, goes to the direction of, how may I help this person? So they have intentionality in their open state of consciousness. Now, it's not an obsessive, place, but it is, they have that. I mean, the Buddhas then are finally totally spontaneous in helping us deal with our delusions. But the thing is, they have context, that they understand delusions are a distortion and they make suffering. So there's that. So it's not, you don't abandon common sense or a sense of being present, peaceful. Okay.
Yes, someone told me that, like, if you're having difficulty with your meditation, for like 5 minutes, just let your mind go and get it all out. And then then what happens is I forget that I'm meditating and then I move on. That's my problem.
Yeah, actually, no, I agree with you to one point. For example, I mean, I lead 10-day retreats, and I'm in those retreats from the 6 in the morning until 7 o'clock at night. I'm participating in all the sessions, and so one is I'm on display up in front of everybody, which sort of is not much fun. And then you get the head bobbing, like because you're falling asleep. Anyway, but okay, but no, there is something that and this is something I found with myself is that I'm sitting there meditating, and then this particularly thought comes up, and I'm completely caught in it, and I'm thinking about it for a minute or two, and then I go, okay, no, I'm meditating, but then I find that actually I've really calmed down. Like maybe it was sort of like, I'm going to say, it was a dream or something, but it was something, and I was sort of like, oh, and then so I found a deeper place, but it's sort of similar to what you said in the sense that you relaxed and your mind followed a series of thoughts. And then when you sort of catch yourself, you actually realize that you've relaxed and you're at a deeper position. But I wouldn't say that it's something you consciously do. Your mind just does it to you, and then you benefit from it. But that's about the closest I can say for what you suggested.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, sometimes meditation is hard, but you sort of want to try to develop this sense of, I've got my personal space, I've got my peace, and then I'm in the open space of the sky or whatever, however you want to phrase it. Yeah. Okay. Other questions, commentaries? Okay, now I'm going to do something else with you guys. Okay, and it's just merely because this is the last class and we've done an hour already, so I normally try to shut it down by about an hour and 10 or 15 minutes, because that's, if we go too long, it's too exhausting. So, okay, let's say you do shamatha meditation and you're doing it, the movement of the chest, breathing. Now, there's then two things that you can do with that, which are so nice. A wisdom meditation, which is the one I just described at the very beginning, that, okay, wow, I'm immersed in this atmosphere. It's touching all my skin all around, everywhere, inside my ears and everything like that, up my nose. I'm completely immersed and I'm completely penetrated with every breath I take. I am not self-existent. So with every breath, you can have, I am interdependent. I am not self-existent. Now, that is on the basis of a relative perspective of the nature of reality. All phenomena are interdependent, empty of any self-existent. But you are having phenomena arise, okay? Because if you do an ultimate perspective on the nature of reality, it's open like the space of the sky, but there's no form. Your consciousness rests in that. But again, that's Mahamudra. But you could say relative perspective Mahamudra is, I'm sitting or breathing, I am empty of any independent self-existence. Every cell of my body has other components which are supporting it and stuff. I am completely 100% independent. And that's on the basis with the breath. So that would be a wisdom meditation, which then helps you have a deep, better appreciation of the nature of reality. All phenomena are empty of self-existence, interdependent. Then you could bring in karma a little bit, that if something's happening, it has a continuity of causes and circumstances. But then you could add intentionality in that to say, may I be a benefit? So it's not like just, this karma is arising. No, okay, it's arising for some causes and circumstances. It's not independently self-existent. But okay, may I put, my bodhicitta, apply it to that? Or may I offer a benefit, or may I have detachment, whatever might be the most appropriate. So that's one, that's a wisdom meditation on the basis of your breathing that you've been developing with shamatha, okay? That's one. The second one is actually Tonglen, but it's not the big extensive version where you have a black stone in your heart and you inhale black smoke and it hits the black stone and cracks it open and all that. That's I find that very intellectual. What I would like you to do is something a little bit more simple, and it's based on basically empathy. That, it's said that we, in psychology research and such, that we are actually quite hardwired to be empathetic. Now, what you do with an empathetic feeling can be varied. I mean, you can have an angry thought, a rejection thought, a repulsive thought, because you've empathized with somebody about something. But we're talking about compassion. So if you're sitting there doing your breathing meditation, and what it would be is that you cognize somebody's suffering. Okay, so whether it could be about yourself. I mean, actually, Geshe Rapton said the first object of your Tonglen is yourself, and then he talked about having a little mini me, and the little mini me full of I am pathetic, I'm no good, or I'm angry, or I'm jealous, or I'm competitive, and then you inhale that and you exhale back kindness to yourself. That's actually one of the very first meditations on Tonglen, that what I was taught from Geshe Rapton. But the point would be, again, is in your breathing meditation, what you inhale is cognition of something that's suffering, but then you exhale compassion. And if you have a cognition of something in an empathetic way, in the Buddhist perspective, then it's like, wow, that's suffering. And then automatically almost your heart goes to that situation. Now, don't take severe situations. That'd be overwhelming. You can't do that. But maybe, you hear a dog barking and it's sort of caged up in a kennel or something like that. So you inhale the cognition of the poor dog, in a situation, and you exhale back, may the dog have happiness, the cause of happiness. And that way it's just tied with your breathing. But instead of doing some elaborate thing of a stone in your heart or something like that, it's just cognition, a cognition of, oh, that's suffering. Inhale, oh, may you have happiness, the cause of happiness. Inhale, may you be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. Very nice, easy version to do it. And the thing is, we are interdependent. So, for example, one thing is we don't want to, stress ourselves because of being empathetic, but rather to be, realistic about what is capable. So let's say, for example, you see an accident or something, or you see somebody who's suffering quite badly. Well, maybe that's beyond our capacity. Maybe an ambulance has to come, or a doctor or something like that. Okay, well, so, whoa, that's a lot of suffering. May there be a solution. Oh, that's a lot of suffering. May they be free of that suffering. So again, that's maybe at that level, that's beyond our capacity. But then if you come back to maybe something simple, like you're with some friends and one of them is saying they have a lot of trouble and stuff like that, then you inhale, woo, that's a lot of suffering, and then exhale back, may they be peaceful. Maybe you hold their hand or give them a hug, or, if they're open, maybe you share some ideas. But that way, it's all tied together with your breathing in a very natural way. And it could be, that's compassion. So we have a wisdom meditation with our breathing, shamatha, and then we could have this as a compassion meditation. But again, as I said, use common sense as to when you see a suffering, what do you have the ability to do? If nothing else, at least exhale compassion. Like exhale, may they be free of that suffering. That is compassion. Rather than oh, I don't want to see that. That's horrible. Then you have aversion. That's not beneficial. But again, you don't need to fully engage some horrible suffering situation. Rather than that, just say, okay, I don't have that capacity yet, but maybe one day I will. I like Mother Teresa. I mean, Mother Teresa is a perfect example. I mean, she took dying people off the streets of Calcutta and took them back to a warehouse and helped them and cleaned them up and stuff like that. Maybe we can't do that. We can't find street people all over the streets of America, and pick them up and take them to a restaurant and maybe take them to a place where they have a shower. I mean, that's too much. We can't do that. But what we can do is say, may they meet with the inhale, woo, that's a lot of suffering, and exhale, may they meet the circumstances for them to be helped. And if you are Mother Teresa, then go for it. But if you're not, just use common sense with that particular meditation, okay? So those are my last two thoughts, just to sort of flesh out, I think, a really practical way to deal with your meditation. I gave you techniques for not getting scattered. I gave you techniques for not to be sleepy. And then actually, if you're to avoid meditation, well, try to find the main reason you got involved in Buddhism. It must be quite a powerful reason there, like you thought it had an answer for you. Well, that's why maybe you need to meditate. And remember, meditation gives you perspective. It gives you a personal space where then you can deal with maybe some strong emotional things that bug you. Okay, so that pretty much ties up what I wanted to do for 4 sessions. I hope it was some benefit. Any final comments or thoughts or words or anything? Everybody's reasonably happy?
I have a comment, Jhampa. This class has been really helpful for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
1 week you gave us homework. I honestly, I don't like meditating. I don't like it. I avoid it. And he said, I want you to do 10 minutes a day. And I thought, oh, okay, well, here's my chance. And so I've been doing it before I go to work. And it's been really helpful.
Oh, well, actually, thank you to the Buddha, because he gave it all, but yeah, but that's good. No, thank you. And may you continue. You're in my prayers.
Thank you.
Yeah, and mostly meditation is just clarity of who I am and where I'm coming from. Let's be realistic about it. I mean, who I am and where I'm coming from. That's what I want to be in touch with. That's what meditation is about. Nice and simple.
Says, thank you very much.
Shayla, thank you. Nice to hear from you. Good. Okay, guys. Well. Okay, so that's good. It'd be nice to be doing the class with you guys. I'm going to be really busy over the next few months, so I'm not really going to be available to do anything else. But I've enjoyed this, because I live in Mexico and everybody speaks Spanish here, and so it's nice that I can speak English reasonably quickly and get away with it. Thank you.